are listening to Inside Voices on WNHHLP 103.5 FM. Good morning, everyone, and welcome
Good.
to Inside Voices. I am joined today by somebody who is really very special and important to me, and so special and important to so many of the children and families that he's been serving. I am thrilled to be joined by Mr. Reginald Hayes. I'm here from Kiddie Korner. Welcome. And everybody affectionately calls you Reggie, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, welcome, Reggie. How are
Yeah.
you? How are you, Reggie?
Good to be here, Georgia. I'm good.
Now, the audience has to know that they are being robbed of the essence of Reggie because you're only seeing his face on up. But every time I see Mr. Hayes, he is dressed to the gods.
Cut it out, Georgia.
It's one of the things, Reggie, that every time you come, every time I see you, I'm just like, you look like you should be lounging or you just came off lounging on your yacht or something.
Oh my gosh.
Well, welcome to Inside Voices. Welcome
Thank-
to Inside Voices. So Reggie, you are the director of Kitty Corner, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to share with the audience what Kitty Corner is and when it got started and what the goal for your organization has been.
Sure. Kitty Corner. Um, I opened Kitty Corner in 1995, and I was on 67 Court Street, not far from where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
In 2000, I sought out a larger facility, and I moved to 795 Grand Avenue, which allowed me to occupy 43 children, and that's where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have a really good mission, and our mission at Kitty Corner is to offer quality childcare, safe environment to our children, no matter what the ethnicity is, the economic background, or the gender or disability. We would like to promote a safe environment for our children. We're strictly now a before and after school program. We previously were a daycare. We did daycare up into approximately about 4 years ago. And I discussed it with you first, Georgia, being my consultant. I went strictly before and after school, and I think that was a great move.
Mm-hmm. And why, so you said you started previously as a daycare, and that's how we actually met, Reggie,
Right.
because when I was entering into this space for the audience, when I was entering into this space, I was coming from the K-12 system, so I didn't know much about childcare. So I did call up the state, and they said, you know, a good person to talk to is Reginald Hayes at Kitty Corner, and that's how we connected. You opened your doors and you showed me, you walked me through your center, and you showed me all of the things that you were doing and all of the things that I need to think about. So when you started off that journey of, working with younger children, what was the thinking? What was, because and this, we're going to discuss this. You're a social worker by trade, right?
That's what made me want to get into childcare. I was a social worker, and in my daily work, I saw there was a need for daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And a very quick story. At the same time, Georgia, I was the head basketball coach at West Haven High School.
Hmm.
And one of my players, I was given a ride home after practice. And just one night, I went into his house, and his mother had an in-home daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Miss White, could you tell me how you went about that? And she told me what the process was. And she said, you're a state social worker. It should be easier for you to do. She gave me the contact information, and it was nonstop from there. I made contact with the state and began that process. And once that was approved, I went to the community development, which gave me a $25,000 grant, which allowed me to open my facility.
And I think what a lot of people don't know, Reggie, and I'm hoping this Inside Circle will platform that. they don't understand the background of the folks that are actually doing this work. I think, there's still the mythology out there that, daycare is really just babysitting, but there are so many skilled practitioners that's in this work. And we came into this work because of our experience in the system and recognizing that, what, something has to happen differently for our children. And this is why we entered into that work. So talk about your experience, because you kind of alluded to it. So talk about that journey for you.
Well, I think one of the hardest part was finding a facility.
Mhm.
And once I located the facility, then things started to move along for me.
Mhm.
Um, it's been a really rewarding process. Trying to do what I want. Georgia, the main thing that was important to me was I wanted to offer parents an affordable daycare. As a state social worker, I saw mothers struggling. And one thing I wanted to do, I wanted to open the daycare, but I wanted it to be affordable for my parents.
Mhm.
And I think I lived up to that mission. Speaking to the fact that after 20 something years, just last month is the first time I've raised my rates from when I opened in 1995.
Wow.
And when I called the state to raise my rate, they laughed. They couldn't believe it. They said, "Yeah, it's time." And I think
I
just
think after 20 years, it's time, Reggie.
yeah, and I think based on that, I was able to live up to my mission, which was to offer my parents affordable childcare.
Yeah.
I've taken that same process from childcare into my before and after school program, which is basically what I do now, strictly before and after school.
Now, what age group do you serve in your
I
before?
serve the age group of 5 to 13.
Okay. And what was, I mean, I know why you decided to make this shift because we discussed it prior
Right,
to doing it. And you mentioned that I am your ed consultant. And so part of the work that, part of the support that childcare centers need to have built in are different types of social work consultants, educational consultants, dental consultant used to be one of them, and
right.
health consultants. And these are folks that come into your facility if you need, extra support to give that support. And Reggie, given your capacity, you can serve as a social work consultant as well. To
Exactly.
childcare centers, you just can't do it to your own. So we discussed this. So you're thinking in switching to before and after school solely. And I think you hit on something very early in the process that I think many childcare providers are going to start to recognize as a need. So share with the audience what your thought process was. What were you seeing on the ground when you made a decision to switch?
Well, when I made the decision, it was right around the time they opened up the Reggie Mayo School on Gulf Street.
Hmm.
At that point, I felt that with public school taking on the 3 and 4 year olds
Hmm.
and some 5 year olds, that was a perfect time for me to concentrate on the school age population of before and after school, which was a lack in services. So I was able to make that adjustment from daycare to go on strictly before and after school, and that was my main thinking.
And Reggie, your facility is beautiful. Absolutely
Thank you,
beautiful.
Joe.
I love walking into your facility and seeing how it's set up. So for children and families that are coming to your facility, what are the things that you want them to have access to? And what are the things that it's important for you to make sure that is a resource for those children and families?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to do, and with your help, I was able to do was I built a computer laboratory.
Mhm.
I think that's been a big help because with the before and after school program, the kids will come in the morning time from any time from 7 to 9, where the bus picks them up to take them to school.
Mhm.
I find that my kids get all their junk out of their system before they get picked up to go to school, so that when they get to public school, they're ready for public school.
Mhm.
They've been on the computer a little while and they've gotten all the junk out at Kiddie Korner before they head to school. And Georgia, I do a baseline on my kids, and my kids do great academically.
Mhm.
So I think my process is working.
And talk about your process.
Well,
And then to just giving them access to the technology in the morning.
well, my process is I want my kids to know there's a time for everything. They know to make the separation that once I leave Kitty Corner, I need to concentrate on what I need to do in public school. And our kids look forward to coming back at the end of the day,
Mhm.
telling us what happened in their day. We
Mhm.
follow their day. Even right now, I have a 4-year-old, well, she just turned 5, that I take to school every single day. She goes to
Wow.
Reggie Mayo School. She was not able to get in on the bus because she hadn't turned 5 yet.
Mhm.
So I take her and I pick her up every day. And I just feel it's a great relationship with myself in the public school where they see that I follow my kids and I'm involved not only here, but also what's going on with them in public school.
Yeah. And that's really very special, Reggie, because I know not all childcare providers are going to put children in their cars and take them to school, especially those families that are choosing to put their children in a public school when they are not eligible to get on the bus. And so that's really, and I know because when I talk to people about, their relationship and their connection with you, they talk about some of those very special things. So what are some other special things, or what are the things beside those things that make Kitty Corner special to so many families that I hear from in the community?
I think what's special about Kitty Corner is myself as a male.
Mm,
I'd have to say, Georgia, that the kids react to the fact that a male is running this facility.
mm,
Um, and once again, I even see that when I go into Reggie Mayo School. They
yeah,
treat my kid like she's a prima donna because she has a male bringing her every day. That
yeah,
same male picks her up every day. And
yeah.
I walk in that door and those kids holler, Gabby, Mr. Hayes is here. It just, and it makes this little girl feel so special. And the mom tells me it has helped her with her own attitudes in school. So
Yeah,
I think my involvement, and I'm not just an owner that owns the daycare. I open the doors every day. I've
yeah.
opened these doors every day for 25 years. I don't have somebody open for me. The
Mm.
only time I don't open is if I'm on vacation. And I don't really take that many vacations ever since I've had the daycare.
I don't know, Reggie.
Well, Georgia, you know that because I go to Newport for 7 days and I don't want to stay 7 days and you stay the last 2 days. I want
Yes,
to get back to Kitty Corner.
so, you mentioned being male in this work, and you are a unicorn of sorts. Not only are you male, but you're a Black male in this work. And this is something I know legislation that they are looking to track. So in 5003, which is, I think is going to be the catch-all bill for childcare this year,
Mm-hmm.
there's language in there to study why there are no men that are in early care and education. And we want the audience to know that this work is done primarily by women, more specifically Black and Brown women. And there is a dearth of men that's in this field and Black men. So talk about that experience about being male and being more specifically a Black man doing this work.
Well, I'd have to say it's been a positive experience for me, Georgia. The fact that I sit in meetings at Circle with 25 to 30 women every other Saturday, and those women treat me like I'm one of the girls. Um, Everybody's just so respectful to me. Uh,
Mhm,
they love my opinion when I have one.
mhm,
I just they welcome me with open arms. I don't see it hurdle for men other than men. Men have to get it out of their head that this is just something for women.
yeah.
And the step that I've been taking to try to help this, Georgia, is in the Youth at Work program.
Mhm,
I specifically has been going in trying to bring in young males,
mm,
and I think it's working. I have a young man that graduated a couple years ago. He's at NYU University in New York.
mhm,
I got a call from New York City from a daycare center who wanted a reference for him because he wasn't coming home for the summer. He was going to stay in New York and work in daycare.
mhm,
I have one now, a senior at Amistad. he's graduating this year. He's going to Jackson State, and he's going to Jackson State, and he wants to major in childcare. So
Wow.
I feel that my reaching out to these young people, letting them know this is just not a woman's profession. I think it's working and very successful at this point.
So, one of the things, the barriers, I think, beside the social stigma of, this is woman's work, um, it there is also the stigma of, like, assigning sexual deviancy to men in this work. Because when we've had males in our facility, one of the things that parents demand of us is for them not to change their children's diaper, or not to come with, or not to have the male take children to the bathroom. And that's something that we wrestle with still in our
Yeah.
facility. So has those things come up for your program, and how do you navigate those?
George, I would be lying if I said it did. That has not absolutely has not been an issue at my center in these 20 something years.
Wow.
Mainly because I've been surrounded by many women that if a child needed to go to a bathroom, one of my female staff would do it. Uh,
Mhm.
and even with my young men that youth at work, young men, um, they strictly deal with the young men going into the bathroom and using the urinals the correct way. So I haven't had that issue, Georgia.
Yeah, I think it takes on probably a different tone when you have younger babies. And I
Right.
think parents
Exactly.
probably feel differently when a child can't speak versus when a
Right.
child can speak. So has there been any sort of any discomfort being male doing this work, or any sort of like weird thing that you would point to, the fact that it's specifically because I'm male and not female, why this is an issue? Have you experienced any of that?
No, I'd have to say no because everybody's welcome to me with open arms doing this work
Yeah.
everywhere I go. The only negative that came about was when I started years ago, and I was telling peers at Quinnipiac College that I worked with that I was going to open a daycare, and they laughed. They thought it was funny.
Why?
They don't because me being a male opening up a daycare, they thought it was funny, but they don't think it's funny anymore. They've seen the longevity that I've had in the business, how successful my business is. They 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 don't laugh anymore.
And Reggie, you talk about the success of the business, and one of the conversation that's ongoing, and is ongoing now, is that childcare and daycare has a broken financial model. So how have you found success? I mean, besides the fact that you're a state employee, does that play a role in your ability to have like a successful business and charge parents the same price that you charged 20 years? Did it help that you had a full-time job as a state social worker?
You hit it right on the head, Georgia. Because I was a state social worker, I didn't basically live off the daycare, so it
Mhm.
afforded me the opportunity to pass that savings on to my parents.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I would say yes. The fact that, and it's even more so now because I'm retired from the state
Mhm.
and I have pension and I have Social Security. So because of those conditions, it's allowed me to make my place affordable as long as I did to the parents. But now with things changing, leases going up and everything else going up, I couldn't eat it anymore. And this was where I said to you, I got to make a change now. I have to make an increase, and this is where I had to do it.
Could you have done it if you were not working full-time? Could you have made your business profitable?
No, not if I was no if I wasn't working at the state at the time, it would have been tough
Yeah.
because that big paycheck for me would have to be there if I wasn't working. Whereas with me having a job, that was an expense that I didn't have.
Yeah. And that's a big part of the challenge that lots of daycare directors face, that they can't
Mm-hmm.
thoroughly overcome.
Exactly.
And you sat in stories in the circle meetings, and you hear people share the fact that they are making choices in their lives, in their personal lives that they really shouldn't have to face. But
Right.
that was an obstacle for you. What were some, that wasn't an obstacle for you, which is a huge thing to not have to deal with. So what were some of the other obstacles that you had to deal with in doing this work?
Well, well, I'd like to pay my staff more. I mean, one of the big obstacles is the pay. I think women, not just women, but childcare workers deserve to make more
Yeah.
than what I was able to pay them. The other thing, Georgia, is I think the respect needs to be there.
Mm, mm,
Take
mm.
it back to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You and I know we hung in there.
Yeah.
A few of us hung in there, and a lot of the women in the childcare homes hung in there when COVID came.
Mhm.
Um, we was God's gift to everybody when COVID came because we made it possible for people to go to work.
Yeah.
But it hurts, Georgia, when things have gotten back to normal, how quickly that's been forgotten.
Yeah.
Who was there during COVID?
Yeah.
How we were traveling in them dark days to open. When everybody else was secure in their homes, we was opening our centers, risking taking stuff home to our families.
Yeah.
So it bothers me how quickly everybody forgot how important we was when things were bad.
Yeah. And it's not just us, Reggie, because I remember when there were only a few of us out there, those essential workers out there. I remember there were only two places that I could go out and eat out, which is there was a McDonald's in my neighborhood and a Wendy's in Cromwell, and I live in Middletown, so I always go to that Wendy's. I still support those two places because Reggie, when everything else was closed, the
Mm-hmm.
two places were open, and those fast food workers, they themselves were there putting themselves at risk. And I don't think they understood how important it was when you're working all day and you don't have access anymore to restaurants and all of those places. How, when you're hungry and you just need to go someplace, and they just was like a little lighthouse for me in those dark days, as you said. But, you spoke to the respect issue. And a part of the work I'm trying to do here, Reggie, is just to put the face off the workers
Mm-hmm.
this work, because a lot of times people don't really understand, again, the type of work that we do, but also the qualifications of the folks that are working here in this industry and are being paid less than a dog walker. When they look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, childcare workers are making less than dog walkers. And that comes, I think, from not respecting the work, again, because
Yeah.
people think we're babysitting, but
Yes.
also where people feel disrespected even further in the work because they have qualifications, they have backgrounds, they have degrees, they have credentials, and they come in with all of these and they're building children's brains, but they're not being paid.
Exactly.
So how do you think, if you had a magic wand and you could wave a magic one. I don't think pay in and of itself is going to solve the issue, but how do we transform people's thinking about the importance of this work so that the respect can be built into it?
People need to understand what we go through as far as being prepared for this job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when people are home sleeping on Saturdays and relaxing on Saturdays, we're in meetings
Mm-hmm.
every other Saturday. We're in a meeting from 2 to 4 all summer. A year ago, we were in meeting with a guy, Joe, from Community Investment,
Mm-hmm.
who taught us finances,
Mm-hmm.
who's taught us how to build our business. We were doing that when people were going on vacations. It's summertime, but we were sitting in classes with Joe. If people saw the things that we do behind the scenes, they
Mm-hmm.
take that ideology of us being babysitters away.
Yeah.
You would never hear that word again, babysitters.
I think that's so important to point to raise, Reggie, because you are right. We see ourselves so very differently than the way people see us, and our approach to this work is so very different, that we are taking that time on Saturday to increase our skills and knowledge, and not just around finance, but also just around child development. Because and people did brain, they did child behavior management. People were taking classes to learn how to recognize and how to recognize and identify developmental delay early in children, and how to build strategies in your programs to do that. I think that's so important. I'm glad you raised that up as
And
a.
you know what else, Georgia? You take a Saturday. Saturday is the day that people use to get things done.
Mhm.
I'm a homeowner, and there's things I need to do, and I can be in the middle of cutting my grass. At 10 minutes to 2, I put the mower up and go jump in the shower and go into our meeting at 2 o'clock on Saturdays. That's how important that is to us.
Yeah.
It's a priority to us to be there every other Saturday to network with the other women.
Yeah. So for the folks who are listening, Circle hosts a bi-monthly meeting every Saturday at around from 2 to 4 o'clock. And sometimes, Reggie, we go beyond
We
4
go
o'clock,
beyond, yes.
because we are not just discussing, the nature of our business and how we can support each other, but we're also talking about legislation and what legislation is going to impact us. We're even thinking about what regulations and stuff needs to occur to make sure that the system really serves children and families really very well.
Georgia, I can add to that. I can remember a conversation you had with me a couple of years ago, and you called me on the phone, and you said, "Reggie, how come you don't come to Saturday meetings?" And I was like, "What meetings you talking about, Georgia?" And that's when you told me about what was going on Saturdays, and I've been involved ever since. That took me from a director out on the island by myself
Mm.
to a village of directors where we're able to pick each other's brains and help each other every Saturday. The best thing I've ever done was to get involved with Circle, your program.
And Reggie, I have to tell you, Circle, a part of the work that we do as Circle stemmed from you being my part of my village, and one of the first in my village when I started to enter into this work. Because, and I hear this so many times from different people, they still view this work as a competition. And it is, we are, business owners, and we want people to come to our facility. But when I reached out to you, Reggie, you flung your doors open, and here I am as a new business coming in to be in competition with you, and you were just so open, Reggie, that a part of my calculus was that the village that I found with you and with Glory Smith from Morning Glory and Kim Harris from Harrison Tucker, that was the village I wanted formalized in Circle. And so, Reggie, I can't just, take full credit for this. You were so much a part of my entree into this work, and the creation of this very informal village. We call each other, Reggie, when, as a matter of fact, Reggie, if anybody calls me on my cell phone and says, "Hey, I'm looking for childcare for my child," I know exactly who they're being referred by. Because we do refer
Yeah,
family to each other when we cannot serve them. And that's something that's so important for the community to know, that we have created a village and we are operating in a village. And it's not necessarily, we don't see each other as competitors, but as a support system for each other, because we do operate in a spirit of scarcity. We operate in a spirit of abundance.
I can remember our very first conversation when I picked you up to take you look at a facility,
In
and
your fancy car.
and you said to me, you said, "I can't believe you opened the doors to me like this. Everybody else is just," and I said to you, "Georgia, you're not competition. I can't serve everybody.
Yeah.
We need other people to be able to service these kids."
Yeah.
And that's just the way it's been.
And I think parents need to, and the community needs to understand that we're really here to support and to serve children and families. And, we get full sometimes, and families don't always have a really good process to find childcare centers and they don't always know. They're just like cold calling. And but when they come to you, Reggie, they don't have to cold call because guess what? You're connected to this village of childcare providers. You can say, hey, I have a family here that's serving XYZ. Can you support them? And we do that all the time. When the families come to my program, I can always, pick up the phone and say, hey, Reggie, I have a parent here, they're looking for XYZ. Can you help them? And that cuts out a lot of the work that parents have to do because we have this community and we have this village. And
And
right.
parents appreciate that because when they call me now, Georgia,
Mhm.
and I let them know I no longer do full day daycare, but I have somebody that's great at it, and
Yeah.
they feel like I've taken the weight off them to have to find another place when I give them the phone number to call you. And like as I know the number by heart now, and when they call, I say, "This is the number you want to call," and they're just more than happy.
Yeah. Again, I always know who give them because when is this Hope Child Development Center? I'm like, yes, but no. Now, Miss, I got your number from Mr. Hayes. I said, I know you did. I know you did. So, the question I was going to ask here is, talking about community, talking about not seeing this work as competition, but making sure that parents have resources. What if a person like Georgia showed up at your doorstep like today, what advice would you give them getting started in this work?
To get it started in the work, the first thing I want to do see Georgia is, are they getting into work for the right reason?
Hmm.
And I think I told you this before. If someone's approaching me um, about going into this work and can I help them, and I get the sense that they're doing it for the finances, I won't help them. And I think I've told you that many times. Um, I just won't do it. And if I believe they really have the love and passion to do this work, I'll go all out to help them. Um, I'm helping one of my daycare mothers now. She has 3 kids here. Well,
Mhm.
she's opening an infant toddler in Hamden.
Mhm.
I've walked her through the whole process. The state also told her to call me.
Mhm.
I've walked her through the process. She's getting ready to open any day now. And I feel proud that I was able to help her to do this. She's not taking the kids from me because she's doing babies, but her
Yeah.
other kids will still be here.
Yeah, and I think it's so important that you mention that, Reggie, because a lot of times I think people calculate in their heads that, oh, daycare, it's a real way to kind of get like easy money. But the Treasury Secretary wouldn't call this a broken model if they didn't see some of the huge gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a part of the reason why there is a need for public investment is that after COVID, people rightfully realize that this is a part of not only the state's infrastructure, but also the it has to be a part of the emergency response
Mm-hmm.
because parents are not going to be able to be effective first responders if they don't know or have some place to put children. So I think that's why the public investment is now coming in, but it's so important. And Reggie, I talk to people outside of childcare around businesses, and a lot of times people come in and they do like a rough number, and they come in and they think, oh, if I do this, I'm going to make X, Y, Z. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that is, if money is a reason why you're in childcare, you're right. Do not even start this journey.
No. Mm-mm.
Not even start this journey, because you are going to have to make some decisions around finances that will impact you personally.
You know what's rewarding in this business? Not the money piece of it, but seeing, okay, it's been 24, 25 years now. No, 28 years since I've been open,
Mhm.
which means children that I had that was 3, 4 years old years ago, they're 25, 26. Georgia, to have these people come to my daycare to see me, still come to see me now, that's rewarding.
Yeah.
You know what also is rewarding? I had a young lady. She was in our after school program from the time she was in the 3rd grade until she got into the 8th grade. Georgia, she started growing. She started getting tall. At the time, I was the head basketball coach at West Haven High.
Mhm.
And I said, why don't you play basketball? Said, no, Mr. Hayes, I don't want to play basketball. So you know what I did, Georgia? I started taking her to my basketball games at West Haven High.
Mhm.
She loved it. She ended up playing basketball, ended up starring at Hopkins.
Wow.
She left Hopkins. She got a scholarship to James Madison. She was a star at James Madison, and she was drafted by the WNBA by
Wow.
the Atlanta. Georgia, the first phone call the night of the draft was to me. That's
Wow.
rewarding. That's what makes you want to do this work.
Mm.
And I look at my children from the past, and I look at where they are now, and I feel what I do works because my kids are successful.
Yeah. And I think again, going back to the motivation for doing this work, you kind of speak to what gets you up in the morning.
Exactly.
And you're not just working with young children. You mentioned youth at work and the mentorship you do there. And I'm assuming that spills over from your work as being a coach. So talk about the young people that you're working with in the community to themselves become educators in this field.
Well, the first thing we have to teach our kids is it's okay to be different
Yeah,
and not be followers.
yeah,
And when they come into my program, the first thing they learn is there's rules.
yeah.
If you and you go through this, I tell them if you need your cell phone, this is not the place for you.
Mm,
Because if you're watching your cell phone, you're not watching my kids.
absolutely.
So when I feel like when my youth at work kids leave here, they're ready for the real world because they get the real world here at Kiddie Korner. I don't pacify them.
Mhm.
I teach them the real world of what it's like to be in the working world and what's expected of you.
Yeah. And I think that's, we talk about, at least in the work that we try to do, and we're thinking about this in Circle, we talk about the multi-generational approach that we have to take. We have the young 3 and 4 and 5s and 6 and, the 12-year-olds that we're working with, but we're also training up a group of young people that we also have to prepare them for the world. And
That's
sometimes those young people are the same young people that went through our program, and sometimes it's not. It's just folks that have not been connected to us, and we are creating that community for them.
and I think that statement, Georgia, can lead us to another thing that Circle does, which was the workforce.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. You know you don't want to get me started on that.
Oh, get started, Reggie.
That's because the young lady that I have right now,
Mhm.
who's in charge of my Kiddie Korner, went through your workforce program.
Mhm.
And when I got her, she had every I dotted, every T crossed, and she came in here and she shook. I had a lady running the program that had just stepped into it that I was not very happy with. You knew it. We discussed it. I wasn't very happy with her. The young lady that you trained stepped in, and when I tell you, she shook this place up, and she's still here now. I love her. I just love what she's doing here. The kids love her, and then you know who gets the credit? Circle in their workforce program, and I'm on this platform. I want to thank you, Georgia.
I want to thank you for thanking us publicly, Reggie, because we don't always get to lift up the work that Circle is doing, and I'm grateful to have Inside Voices being able to do that, and just highlighting that. But what is important of note for people to understand is a lot of the folks that we are training, Reggie, are folks that want to do this work,
Exactly.
have not gotten the support in doing this work. As a matter of fact, some of the folks that we work with, they started off, pursuing an early child education degree, but they weren't quite successful because they didn't have that level of support because they're first generation college graduates. And so they kind of drop out of the educational system, but they still do pursue the work. And then Circle, does a lot, but for somebody like that worker, it was just about giving her that skill to be successful in doing the work that she wants to do.
But you not only did you give her work skills, you gave her self esteem back. Um, she was dealing with health issues.
Mhm.
She was dealing with her size, and You guys gave her such self-esteem. If you see her now, she's a different person, completely different person. And once again, it goes to circle.
Well, I thank you, Reggie, for saying that because again, the work for Circle is creating that circle of security around not just the providers and
Mhm.
but the people that are doing this work, because ultimately when we're okay, the kids will be okay.
Exactly.
Families will be okay, and the community that we love will also be beneficiaries of this work. So I'm so grateful to hear you say that. So we have a few minutes left, Reggie. So I want to take this moment to have you just talk about Kitty Corner, talk about again where you're located, where
Okay.
people find you, what are some of the program offerings that you have?
Okay. Kitty Corner, we're located at 795 Grand Ave. That's in downtown New Haven. It's a block from State Street.
Mhm.
We operate from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. In the evening, but we're strictly before and after school. Um, the last kid normally gets on the bus at 9:30, and we're back at 2, which is our first kid gets back here at 2:30. During the summer, we run a full day program where we're here from 7 to 5 the full day. Um, and I think we run a very great program during the summer program, where we get the kids out into the community, and we try to take at least a trip a week. Um, it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to this summer.
So what are some of the places that you take the kids when during the summer? What are some of the things that you guys do?
Uh,
Because we're getting up on summertime,
yeah,
Reggie.
well, we go to
Yep.
the lighthouse. We go to the movies every Wednesday. The bus takes us to the movies at the mall every Wednesday. Um, we went to the Norwalk Aquarium, and that was because of Circle. Again, Circle applied for a grant, um, which allowed us to have um, our mothers send their kids to our program for free, and trips for free. I'll never forget that. That was 2 years ago, and that was the best thing that's ever happened in New Haven to the parents. They paid no fees, and their kids was taking trips 2 and 3 days a week. It was good. It was very good. Good living. We don't do swimming because the pools in New Haven have been pretty much shut down.
I do want to share with you that I found out because we're going to connect with them, and we're hoping to make another great partnership with the YMCA. But their pool is up and operational on House Street.
On House Street.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
Because I know we lost access to the New Haven pool, which was a real bummer.
Right.
And so we have been looking for places to bring the kids swimming. So we found out that the House Street YMCA does have their pool up and operational. So
Okay. The other thing the kids like is the Peabody Museum. They love going there, and they love the Norwalk Aquarium. Those were very educational. And then we went to the place that they have in the Trumbull Mall. That was really great.
yeah,
Mm.
the
We try
aquarium.
to do educational, but along with a lot of fun things also. And then once a week we might go to the lighthouse and let the kids go in the water, the sprinklers, and we just try to keep them busy.
Yeah. And from when to when does your program run?
we
I
start
know we never shut down, Reggie. But at
we
least on paper, from when to when does the summer
Yeah,
camp?
we never shut down, Georgia. School ends, I think, the 19th, and our program officially starts with that Monday, the 23rd, and we run up until the Friday before public school starts. So we offer parents the opportunity because a lot of them are panicking. What am I going to do? That 2 week gap from when school closes and Parks and Rec start. Well, we cover those 2 week gaps in the beginning of the summer and those 3 week gaps at the end of the summer. So we run from the time school closes to the time they reopen.
So when parents pay, does all of the cost is all the cost covered in their tuition?
Yes, they pay their weekly fee, which is $95, and there's a registration fee of $150. With the registration, that covers all trips. That covers everything we do every summer except the Quasi trip, which is the last trip. So
Mhm.
parents know that 150 that they pay covers everything that their kids going to do all summer, even their new shirts, insurance, everything. The only thing it doesn't cover is the last trip to Quasi.
Okay, so your field trip, so your weekly tuition covers their t-shirts as well?
Exactly. Mhm.
Good for you. That's a pretty good deal. And that 150 is cheap. That's pretty cheap. And Care for Kids, I believe, covers for families who have Care for Kids and also have siblings, they cover a lot of it. We find that a lot of our families pay zero in our summer camp program because Care for Kids actually covers the full cost of
Well,
summer.
I've already turned in my summer parent provider agreements for Care for
Stop
Kids.
showing people up for stop showing me up, Rich.
Well, you know, George, being a state social worker, you know I know when to get stuff in.
Yes, you do. And you always guide
So we,
us.
we, we've already gotten back our summer certificates, so most of our parents are pretty well covered.
So that's something I have to work on then, Reggie. You're always guiding. You're always
And
guiding.
you know what was even nicer is I told you we just raised our rate substantially. Care for Kids covered that for these parents, and that was great.
And that's a lot of parents need to fully understand that that it's an incredible support through the Care for Kids program. You know, sadly, we don't know what's going to happen with families who are not currently on the Care for Kids program for summer, but you know, that's a whole other issue that we could talk
Right.
about.
Exactly.
How can they find you? How can they find Kitty Corner?
They could reach me at on the phone at 203-627-5358, or they can send my email at Kitty Corner is RCH Jaguar JAGUAR at yahoo.com.
Now, do you have a website?
Not yet. We're having Kim Harris at Harris Tucker is helping us with a referral to build our new site.
Okay, what about Facebook, social media? Is there anything?
No.
No? Oh, you guys are in the process of doing that?
Yes. Mhm.
All right. So definitely, again, you know, we are always a resource for that. So in the last like 2 to 3 minutes, are there any future plans for Kitty Corner that you want to kind of, you know, highlight and share here?
Well, the only plans I have for Kitty Corner is to continue to do what I'm doing and do it the right way and to
Mm.
continue to do it well. We want to keep our numbers up. And I'm continuously remodeling the place. I'd like to keep it fresh, and that's what I want to continue to do. We just remodeled again in the inside, and I just want to keep the place up to par.
All right. And in the last 2 minutes, what would you say? What is the availability, I would say, for parents who are interested in reaching out?
The availability right now, we have 3 slots left.
Okay.
3 more slots, I'll be at my capacity. This is, like I said, this has been a wonderful summer, and I told you I take the little girl to Reggie Mayo School. Well, the principal, Kate, she was just so impressed by it. She come up to me and she said, "Do you guys have a flyer?" I gave her the flyer. My phone has not stopped ringing from Reggie Mayo parents. So we're pretty close to full now.
All right, so you have 3 slots left. So
Three
if
slots available.
are interested in summer camp for Kitty Corner, they should call you right away.
Exactly.
Right. All right, Reggie, as always, it's so wonderful to chat with you and to talk about this work. I think people don't fully understand and appreciate that we live and breathe this, and this is our passion. And even though there's no money in it,
Exactly.
we get up every day because we're really passionate about the children and the families that we serve. Any final thing that you want to say? So,
And I want to thank you for all the help that you've given Kitty Corner. You're always there if I need to talk to you. You just make it a great program. So I want to thank you and Circle.
that's really great. And so we will look to you continuing to be in a part of this work. And so, and for anybody who wants to find out about how to do childcare, Circle support providers who are people of color or primarily serving children of color. And so reach out to us, ctcircle.org, CECRLE. Thank you so very much, Reggie, for joining us for this provider profile. Have a good
Thank you for this opportunity, Georgia. Thank you. Bye bye.